of the board or any citizen fail to observe this public charge, the chair will ask the offending person to leave the meeting until that individual regains personal control. Should decorum fail to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until such time that a genuine commitment to the public charge is observed. As a courtesy to others, please turn off cell phones during the meeting. And I will ask Commissioner Burns to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
The United States of America, the Republic, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty.
And I do want to acknowledge that the chair of our board, Commissioner Howerton, is with us virtually, and that I will be chairing the meeting tonight as the vice chair. Any agenda adjustments this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the announcements and ask our clerk, Monica Wallace, to please read us the announcement.
Good evening, everyone. I will read the announcements that are published in our agenda. World Hunger Day Durham. In recognition of World Hunger Day, Durham County residents are invited to celebrate this important day on Sunday, June 4th, from 3 till 6 p.m. at Durham Central Park, located at 501 Foster Street. The Durham County Cooperative Extension joins with the local partners to host a day of friendship, music, arts, and entertainment for the entire family. There will be food trucks, giveaways, free snacks, a bounce house, and more. For more information, please contact Mary Oxendine at 919-560-9228. Volunteers are also needed for World Hunger Day. Are you service-oriented? The organizers of World Hunger Day Durham are in search of dedicated volunteers to help with this event on Sunday, June 4th. There is a link to sign up online. Enrich Bookkeeping Assistance Pilot Program application is now open. The Durham Black Chamber of Commerce has partnered with Durham County government to ensure that Durham is the best place to start and grow a small business. In this partnership, we are working to provide all the assistance an entrepreneur would need to start and build a business. Through feedback from local entrepreneurs, we have learned that one of the most important areas that entrepreneurs need support in is bookkeeping. This bookkeeping assistance pilot program is designed to test out theories on how best to implement a bookkeeping assistance program. The pilot program will be from July 1st through December 31st of 2023. All applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on May 31st, and there is a link to apply online. Star Talk podcast with Durham County Sheriff. The Durham County Sheriff's Office has started a new podcast called Star Talk. The DCSO is excited to use this technology to reach out to the Durham County community. The first edition is available online at decostartalk.podbean.com. Intro to E3 Durham. Are you starting, refining, or building your small business? Connect with the community of entrepreneurs and resources to help push you along. E3 Durham is funded in part through a grant with the U.S. Small Business Administration. Join staff on Thursday, May 25th from 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at Durham County Main Library, Meeting Room 4347. There is a link that you can follow for additional information. There are also additional dates: June 24th, July 27th, August 31st, September 28th, and October 26th. COVID-19 vaccines and take-home test kits are available at the Durham County Department of Public Health. The end of the federal public health emergency for COVID-19 means some changes to COVID-19 services and resources. Currently, all COVID-19 vaccines and take-home test pickups remain free for all people at the Health Department, 414 East Main Street at this time. You may get your vaccine All doses on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can pick up home test kits on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and there is a link online for additional information. Roll Up and Enroll returns on June 10th. Durham Pre-K's next Roll Up and Enroll event will be held on Saturday, June 10th from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at 2107 Hillendale Road. There will be games, snacks, tooth fairy, resource fair, and much more. To learn more about Durham Pre-K and start your application, there is a link. The website is also www.durhamprek.org. County Veteran Services to commemorate Memorial Day. Please join Veteran Services as they host a ceremony honoring America's military services on Monday, May 29th at 9 a.m. on the 4th floor of the Durham County Administration Building located at 201 East Main Street. For more information, please email Veteran Services at dconc.gov. You can also call 919-560-8387. And lastly, most government offices will be closed on Memorial Day. In recognition of the Memorial Day holiday, most Durham County government offices will be closed on Monday, May 29th, and reopened with normal business hours on Tuesday, May 30th. You can visit our website, dconc.gov, to see the services that are impacted by the closure. That concludes our announcement.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wallace. And are there any other announcements from board members? Commissioner Carter.
Yes, I wanted to announce that this Saturday is the Animal Protection Society Walk for the Animals, and it's a fundraiser. Yeah, there's some advocates in there, in the audience. It's a 1.5 mile walk around East Campus. It's a lot of fun. They're very interesting and gorgeous animals, mostly dogs. Maybe they're all dogs. There'll be contests like the best kisser, the biggest dog, the smallest dog, the best dressed dog. It's a lot of fun, and I urge you to come out. It raises money for Durham's Animal Protection Society. They serve over 5,000, I think that's the number, homeless and neglected animals every year. So that's a great way to have fun and participate in a great community activity.
Thank you. And we happen to have the director of our shelter right here tonight. Thank you. Any other announcements from board members? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to our minutes. We have before us consideration of our April 24th board minute. Any revisions? I would entertain a motion to approve.
Madam Vice Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner Baum. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are unanimously approved. We have a number of ceremonial items, and our first is a proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week in Durham County. Our board is requested to proclaim May 21st through 27th, 2023 as EMS Week in Durham County in recognition of the vital and essential services provided by the Durham County Emergency Medical Services System. And we have with us tonight, I see Mark Lockhart, who is our chief paramedic, and I don't know, is Jim Groves here with us tonight? Okay. So Mark, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and I will ask Commissioner Carter to please read the proclamation.
Durham Board of County Commissioners Proclamation Emergency Medical Services Week 2023. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital and essential public service in Durham County, and whereas the members of Emergency Medical Services team are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas the Durham County Emergency Medical Services System maintained their high level of service and response throughout the pandemic, caring for and transporting a record number of patients. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine and follow-up care through our community paramedics. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, advanced emergency medical technicians, paramedic, community paramedic, 911 telecommunicators, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, emergency nurses, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their patient care and life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers in Durham County Emergency Medical Services System by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Brenda Howerton, Chair, and on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through 27, 2023 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Durham County and call upon all citizens to join with us in recognizing this vital and essential service provided by members of the Durham County Emergency Medical Services System to care for our residents and visitors. This, the 22nd day of May, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. And Mark, please share any comments that you would like to at this moment.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Attorney, and Madam Manager. Director Groves was a little bit under the weather today and is unable to join us, but sends his apologies. On behalf of the incredible team at Durham County EMS, we are grateful for the proclamation of EMS Week, recognizing the people who make our county EMS system not just functional, but also exceptional. The fantastic team at Durham County EMS, the Durham County Sheriff's Office, Durham Emergency Communication Center, Durham Police, Durham Fire, Bahama Volunteer Fire Department, Lebanon Volunteer Fire Department, Redwood Volunteer Fire Department, New Hope Volunteer Fire Department, Eno Volunteer Fire Department, Duke Life Flight, and our partners at Duke Hospital and Duke Regional Hospital. This year's theme for EMS Week is Where Emergency Care Begins. For nearly 48 years, Durham County EMS has worked diligently to provide exceptional patient care to our residents and visitors, serving as a gateway to emergency health care as well as a safety net for the healthcare system overall. The Durham County EMS team responds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to those in need, regardless of when they call or where they are. Our role has expanded in recent years to include mobile integrated healthcare, and our community paramedics fulfill a vital role in connecting patients with resources, providing vaccinations, doing follow-up care on opioid overdoses, and now expanding into providing medication-assisted treatment for overdose patients. We are proud of our team's work. Our cardiac arrest survival to hospital discharge rate continues to be higher than both the state and national averages. We are working to advance our community risk reduction efforts through hands-only CPR and Stop the Bleed public outreach programs, and we continue to work with our partner agencies and stakeholders to advance the Durham County EMS system. We are grateful for your continued support of our mission, especially in addressing our retention and fleet replacement plans over the last year. Thank you very much for recognizing and appreciating the work of the amazing people who are Durham County EMS. We are grateful for the dedication they exhibit and the exceptional care and essential service they provide each and every day.
Thank you, Chief Lockhart, for sharing those words with us and for the essential lifeline that each and every person who is a part of Durham County EMS provides every single day to countless people. Are there comments from board members? Commissioner Burns.
Mine will be really quick. I can't speak for everybody up here, but I just know that since I've been in Durham, I know many times I've had to call 911 because a relative couldn't breathe or because somebody's heart stopped. And I think the thing that has stuck out most to me is just how, before I even sit in this chair, is just how calm and cool your team is. There have been times where I thought it was about to be one of my family members' last breaths, one of their last heartbeats, couldn't get a line in, and every time with Durham County EMS for the 20 years I've been here, it has been nothing short of miraculous. Like, it really seriously has not. Like, there's a reason why your cardiac your cardiac numbers are so high. You just have a very, very well-trained staff. I know that people are often worried about some of the emergencies that we see happening nationwide. I can appreciate the fact that you all do tabletop exercises with other folks in the emergency management field, whether it be DPD or the sheriff's office, all in an effort to make sure that we're ready in the event there's a derailment of a train, there's something that happens at a school, that just the work that you put in. Like, I appreciate it, not just as a county commissioner, but as a resident who has been on the other side and really been looking for help. So I heard y'all had a cookout yesterday. I didn't get to make it. I heard it was great.
Yes, ma'am, we did. We recognized over 80 of our employees with awards
Right.
for cardiac arrest, clinical saves, meritorious service, and several of our other medical director awards and commendations.
I'll be there next year. So, but thank you for everything that you all do, and I hope y'all had a great time yesterday. And I'll never be able to say enough thank yous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Carter.
Well, first of all, I hate that I missed the cookout. I had it on my calendar for this coming Sunday. Somehow or other, I got that wrong. But I heard President Biden say something that's so appropriate here. He said recently, in honor of this week, that EMS providers are, quote, the steel spine of our nation, and they give each of us the peace of mind of knowing that someone will be there to catch us if we fall. And that resonated with me, and I just wanted to thank you again for being the spine of Durham County, the steel spine of Durham County.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Alam.
I don't know what I could add in addition to my colleagues, but just adding into the thanks and gratitude for you and your team and the leadership that you and Director Groves and our fire chief and Sheriff Burkhead, all of our first responders provide, of making sure that we have such a great team of individuals working here within Durham County, because it takes that leadership also to be able to get these results that Commissioner Burns was sharing about. So thanks to the leadership team as well, and as well as everyone who made it possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll just add that in addition to everything that you would expect our paramedics to do, I don't know how many people realize that our Durham County paramedics are also on the cutting edge, not just in the state, but nationally, related to our response to overdose and substance use and non-law enforcement approaches to crises. And our paramedics are serving as part of the HEART team, one of the HEART teams. They are serving there in that capacity. And also, you mentioned, Chief Lockhart mentioned the overdose response teams that we have. Our community paramedics follow up with every single person who has overdosed and try to provide them connection to treatment. They also go out and do, check on who we call our familiar faces, people who call 911 over and over and over again because they may need help with housing. They may need help with a mental health issue, and they will go and visit those people and see what's going on and connect them to help. And most recently, our EMS staff received 2 SAMHSA grants that are going to allow them to now offer induction in the field. So when somebody has overdosed, be able to literally offer them to start medication-assisted treatment right there. And I see Commissioner Howerton would like to make share comments. So I'll stop here. Commissioner Howerton, Chair Howerton.
Yes, hello everybody. And I just wanted to extend my congratulations as well, and thank you for all that you and your staff do, because we really, and just like all the other board members have said, how much we appreciate you. And I also wanted to let the public know, I keep hearing a couple of people asking, where's Brenda Howerton? Brenda Howerton's at EPA, learning about what's going on with our water quality and all the things it has to do with safe and healthy communities. So that's where I am right now. Been there all day, and now I'm online. So I'm taking care of county business, even though you don't see me there. I'm still taking care of county business. So whoever the individuals were that just asking, I appreciate you asking about me and wondering why I wasn't there. So I'm here.
Thank you. And I did announce at the beginning of our meeting that you were attending virtually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But thank you so much. And thank you again, Chief Lockhart.
Thank you.
We now have a proclamation for Memorial Day 2023. And I will ask Commissioner Alam to read that. And we have our Director of Veteran Services with us tonight, Lois Harvin Raven. I think I saw Lois. And Jonathan Crooms, who is our Durham County Veteran Services Officer. Welcome to both of you.
Durham Board of County Commissioners, Proclamation Memorial Day 2023. Whereas Memorial Day each year serves as a solemn reminder of the scourge of war and its bitter aftermath of sorrow. And whereas on Memorial Day, America undertakes its solemn duty to remember the courageous men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our nation and the cause of freedom around the world. And whereas on May 5th, 1868, Mayor General John A. Logan established Decoration Day as a time to decorate the graves of war dead with flowers, and whereas in 1971, the U.S. Congress declared Memorial Day a federal holiday and decreed that it be observed on the last Monday of each May. And whereas, as we honor those who have died in our nation's service so that our war might end, we understand and appreciate the values of patriotism, citizenship, commitment, honor, and duty. And whereas, we must pledge to never forget the names of the 375 known soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen of Durham County who gave the ultimate sacrifice in defending our freedoms. Now therefore I, Brenda A. Howerton, on behalf of the Durham Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim May 29th, 2023 as Memorial Day in Durham County. We urge all citizens to observe Memorial Day 2023 by displaying respect and gratitude for our veterans, both living and deceased, participating in remembrance ceremonies, and observing a moment of silence at 3 p.m. during the National Moment of Remembrance. This, the 22nd day of May, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Alm, and welcome to you, Lois, and your team. And we'd love to have you introduce everyone that you have with you and also to share comments with us. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners, county managers, and our platform executive staff that is with us, our audience, and our listening audience at home. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the recognition. Again, I'm Lois Harvin Raven, Director for Durham County Department of Veteran Services. To my right is Jonathan Crooms. He's our Senior Outreach Coordinator. Shonda Fuller. If you heard the old A Few Good Men's, we stole her from that law firm, so she's been with us for 3 years. And of course, Lindsay Atkinson, he's our new supervisor for the Durham County Department of Veteran Services. And I certainly want to thank you. I'm going to defer to Jonathan, but I certainly just want to take this moment, rather than be last, I'm going to be first, to say I'm going to plead with our Durham community to please come out and join us. Yes, it's early in the morning, but think about it, that service member that was killed in action didn't get another early morning. There is, 8,766 hours in a full calendar year. we're asking for 1.5 of those hours for you all to come out and join us on Monday morning, May the 29th at 9 a.m. We're going to begin placing a wreath at the War Memorial site here in front of this location, 200 East Main Street. And then we will join the guests and our guest speaker, Larry Hall. Many of you know him. He was, for us, the former Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, and of course, he was a legislator in the North Carolina Assembly for many years. He's also a former Marine officer, and I'm sure he will give you all a great presentation on that day. Again, please come out and join us, and I'm going to let Jonathan conclude. Thank you all again.
Let me add to my thank to Lois's thanks for this proclamation this evening. And just to put things a little bit more in perspective, as a staff person, this Memorial Day program is probably my favorite event that we plan because there are 375 known names. There's probably more of service members who perished at war. Tonight, we're all here organizing ourselves, talking about the issues to make our community better. We have the ability to be here in front of you all, give you feedback as residents, as staff members, and we get that liberty, we get that right because 375 names don't. And after this meeting is over, I'm going to go home to my family, as I'm sure everyone else will, and we get to do that because those 375 names don't. So come be with us on Monday. We're going to be right across the street. One change that'll be different this year is we're actually going to be up in the fourth floor conference room of Admin 2. In the past, we've had all sorts of interesting weather when we do it outside. Some years it's oppressively hot. Some years it's misty and rainy. That will not be an issue this year. We will be up in the beautiful Admin Building 2, fourth floor, reading the names of each of these 375 service members who perished at war. You're welcome to join us. Please be there.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anyone else? Lindsay?
I've never shied away from a microphone. I too want to say, as a former Marine and veteran and citizen of this great county, Durham, how grateful I am to serve our veterans and their families. When we think about a civilized and sane society, one of the indicators is that of our ability to remember or to be mindful not to forget. We do. If you are in Durham on this coming Monday around that time of 9, please, we do ask that you would take some time to be active participants in this year's Memorial Day ceremony. It is crucial and critical, especially in light of the climate that we find ourselves in with such violence and just insensitivity all across the land. This is a time to pause and reflect and be reminded that freedom really is not free. It costs individuals their life and their liberty. We get to enjoy that, and Jonathan has said it so eloquently. So I do implore you, if you are here, you're not traveling, please come by and join with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I will echo what Jonathan said. It is really a beautiful service, just reading people's names out loud and remembering those whose lives have been sacrificed and lost. It is a very simple but beautiful service. And so the invitation to the community you've heard for people to come out and join in, and thank you so much. So just as a reminder, it won't be out in front of the building as usual. It will be instead on the fourth floor across the street. So thank you so much at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Any other comments from board members?
Mine's just really quick. I will say one, as always, Lois, y'all do put on a great program. I've always enjoyed it. I know that it seems like they're begging you and imploring you to come to this event, but that's because it really isn't. Like it just, this is not Veterans Day. There's a difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And I know that some people like to use it interchangeably, but to be clear, those 375 names are not people that get to walk on this earth anymore. And, as somebody, my brothers got to come home. All my classmates didn't get to come home. And if you can't come to this, there are opportunities to lay flags on graves. There's an opportunity to do a plethora of things. Friday, May 12th was Military Spouse. I don't even think knew there was such thing as Military Spouse Day, but it is. And there are husbands and wives whose spouses did not come home. So figure out a way how we could support these individuals as they continue to raise their families. So if you can't come out, this whole month is somewhat of a military appreciation month. Just figure out a way where you can kind of sort of fit in. I always remind people on Memorial Day, on MLK Day, on Juneteenth, we like to think of these as a day off. They are a day on. These are opportunities for you to invest in the community that supports you. So I hope if you can't come to ours that you find some way in your heart or within your time to go and support some family that is seen a loss. And if you are fine, if you don't know how, I promise you, those 4 individuals sitting on the wall, they have a plethora of resources on how you can be supportive to that community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on Monday. And finally, we have a resolution honoring a day of remembrance. This is a resolution that we actually was read out loud by Mayor O'Neill and also School Board Chair Bettina Umstead and our Chair Brenda Howerton. Last Monday was a day of remembrance. Also in Durham Public Schools, there was a moment of silence. And our board had not actually approved the officially ceremoniously read and adopted the resolution. So that's what we're doing now. And I want to acknowledge Commissioner Burns, who was on our board, helped lead that effort and writing our part. It's a collaborative effort between all 3 elected bodies. And so we're going to do a round robin reading this. And we're going to start with Commissioner Burns and cycle through 2 times because it's kind of an odd number. So I will ask you to please start us off.
Durham Board of County Commissioners Resolution Day of Remembrance. Whereas, according to the National Association of School Psychologists, high-profile acts of violence, particularly in schools, can confuse and frighten children who may feel in danger or worry that their friends or loved ones are at risk. They will look to adults for information and guidance on how to react. Parents and school personnel can help children feel safe by establishing a sense of normalcy and security and talking with them about their fears. And
Whereas the recent acts of violence in the community have directly impacted Durham youth who attend Durham Public Schools, and we uphold our strategic plan to support the whole child, in which we are committed to create and implement tiered support that provides standardized intervention strategies designed to address students' social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And
whereas Durham County Health and Human Services seeks to strengthen our communities by advancing health, safety, and opportunity, including preventing injury and death by promoting the use of gun locks, encouraging responsible gun ownership, sharing data, and doing research to develop effective policies and partnerships to reduce gun violence. And
Whereas firearms amplify violence and contribute to a growing public health burden as a leading cause of fatalities and injuries, with more than 100 Americans killed by gun violence each day. Durham police shared latest data that 58% of guns stolen were stolen out of cars, and 61% of these cars were unlocked. We encourage all Durham's residents to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives, and help educate their communities about safe storage of firearms in the home, to raise awareness about gun violence, and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors, and
Whereas the City of Durham pays tribute, honors, and remembers gun violence victims and lends support to survivors and family members. It is a fact that every person and neighborhood needs and deserves safety. To counteract gun violence, the City of Durham is leveraging a collaboration between law enforcement, violence and crisis intervention, and social services for places long experiencing structural racism, disinvestment, and high rates of gun violence to numerous neighborhoods and public venues affecting our community and in particular our youth. And
whereas we call on Durham residents, partners against crime members, local businesses, and nonprofit organizations, along with community and youth groups, to consciously push back against the marketing and lobbying activities of the firearms industry and gun lobby by encouraging state and federal elected officials to advocate in support of background checks for every firearm sale, pass safe storage legislation, and ban assault weapons. No more silence. End gun violence.
Now, therefore, be it resolved, Durham Public Schools Board of Education emphasizes that it is all of our responsibility to ensure Durham's future by acknowledging where we are, remembering those we have lost, and supporting the wellness of those who have been impacted. This can only be achieved when everyone in the Durham community works collectively and intentionally to embody our highest aspirations for our children.
be it further resolved, in recognition of Durham's Day of Remembrance, the Durham Board of County Commissioners renews our commitment to reduce gun violence, pay tribute to the innocent victims of gang violence, and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands, and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe.
be it further resolved that the Durham City Council is committed to enhancing public safety through a community-centered approach that supports families and devises policies to confront historical harms while promoting community-based safety and wellness. Be it further resolved that the Durham Public Schools Board of Education, Durham Board of County Commissioners, and the Durham City Council call upon the United States Congress and the North Carolina General Assembly to prioritize the protection of youth, families, and our communities by passing legislation that more effectively regulates access to firearms in the interest of public safety, funds public health research on firearm-related issues, and advances mental health support. Signed, Bettina Umstead, DPS Board Chair, Brenda Howerton, Durham County Commissioners Chair, and Elaine O'Neill, Durham Mayor.
Thank you. And I know I see a number of people with us tonight, who were there present on Monday, May 15th, and it was really a very powerful moment for those who were there, coming together and really recommitting ourselves to our youth and doing all that we can to ensure that our youth are able to live free of the trauma of gun violence. And there's a lot of work that we have to do. There's a lot that we can do together as a community. And we know all three of our elected bodies are committed to working together, and it's going to take all of us together as a community. And I see Chair Howerton on the line. I know that you probably would like to make some comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobs. You know, this is something that's really, really dear to my heart on behalf of all of our citizens in Durham and all of our children. If you were there, or if you saw the quilt that was there, you could not help but be touched and moved when you think about all the names that was on that quilt, and that wasn't all of the quilt. So when you think about that happening in this community with that many names on it, how can we not be moved, and how can we not be committed to looking to see what can we do? What is it that we can do, and all of us can do something to help to save the lives of our children. And I remember when I first moved to Durham, and I was in front of the city council talking about guns and the damage that it does to the lives of families when they're used improperly. And somebody said, it's not guns. Well, people don't just fall dead on their own unless they're ill. Sometimes they do. But when someone takes a gun and take the life of another human being, it impacts everybody in this community, and it impacts the children in our schools. So we are calling on everyone in this community to see what can be done to save the lives of our children, so that we're not waking up in the morning and saying there's another child that's been murdered. So there's nothing more that I can say other than that, because this is just, every time I think about that quilt, it's just, my heart hurts. So that's all I'm going to say about this right now, because I will get emotional. But thank you so much for that, for reading that, all of you commissioners tonight, because it means a lot. And I believe it means a lot to this community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from other board members? Commissioner Byrne?
Yeah, I'm good. Wendy usually get all the ones in, but I did one, as much as I want to say thank you for Vice Chair Jacobs. I did help with the portion that the county had to do, and I did have help from my colleagues. But I would be remiss if I did not sit here and state publicly that the anchor and the captain of this ship for this proclamation, for the press conference, for all the work, was school board member Javanya Lewis. With all of these deaths going on, I'm not going to get into it too deep, but I can promise you, when something bad happens, we know about it first. You know, we get woken up at 3 and 4 in the morning, and those calls never get easier. And so when Javanya set forth to do, and she wouldn't say this, so I'm gonna say it. When she set forth to do this, there were a lot of people who really went out of their way to make sure that this day of remembrance didn't happen. Anytime a family does a vigil, anytime we get out there, I can guarantee you it is not performative. It is because we are really seriously trying to find answers and solutions, because quite frankly, the children that are getting killed look like me. And so it looks like it went off really well, but there were a lot of detractors that did not want it to happen at all. And I only want to say that publicly because I need to remind folks of just one thing. We really in Durham are on our own. And I said that day. The General Assembly is passing laws to expand access to guns. Congress is not making any moves. Anything that we do to slow down expansion, we're going to have to do it ourselves. It comes with us having more volunteers in the classroom. It comes with us having some of these young folks having more access to jobs. I brought this up that day. You know, everybody comes to us and says, you all are bringing so many jobs into Durham. Are you going out of your way to make sure that those jobs are accessible to Durham's youth? I can tell you that every person that's sitting up here, and let me say this, my entire board was present. My entire board, that wasn't the case for every other body. My entire board was standing up there when I was making my comments when Brenda read what she had to read. But even though we set up the best circumstances to make sure that, you know, through the Bulls Initiative, through Durham Tech, working with the school board, the individuals who live in Durham and work in Durham get these jobs, I actually want to put some of the pressure back on the community, because we look, 36 different counties for 10 years straight, 36 different counties have come into Durham every day to work. So you're asking us, are we making sure that people are getting hired? I see some business owners out here, some folks who run nonprofits. I'm pushing it back on you. Are you hiring Durham's best and brightest? Are you smiling at these children when they walk by you? Or are you clutching your purse? Are you looking at them with their clothes dirty and asking them whether or not they're unhoused? Because a lot of these kids that are walking around are actually undercover unhoused. And you all are asking these teachers to be the nurse, the purse, the psychologist, the school resource officer. It's 30-some thousand kids in Durham. It's 300,000 adults, and we need more volunteers. So I'm excited about this resolution, but I actually am begging, because we can throw as much money at this as we want to. It is going to take bodies. These kids need to know that somebody believes in them. And I'm so proud of the fact that Javanya had children to volunteer. She didn't have to ask these children. They volunteered to get up there and tell their own stories. People say, well, we shouldn't talk about a day of remembrance because it traumatized children. Well, we bring that quilt out every time. That quilt is a manifestation of their reality. So it's not traumatizing them. We should be ashamed that that quilt keeps growing. So I'm hopeful that this day of remembrance impacts you enough not to be sad, but to start volunteering in these schools, start to hire some young people, or start to come up with something extracurricular that they can do, because they are brilliant, they are beautiful, and they are talented, and they deserve our best.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you so much. We now have our consent agenda, and we actually, the items that are on our consent agenda at the second meeting of the month are actually items that we did not review at our work session. So I would just ask that the county manager we could take a moment and make sure that commissioners do not have any questions on any of the items that are on this agenda, because the county transit plan is the only item that we have reviewed previously as a board. Commissioner Carter.
I have a question related to one of the items. The very first item, actually, it's a budget ordinance amendment to recognize about $5.7 million from NC Pro to fund the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP 2.0, for Durham County. And this, was run by our Department of Social Services. And if I understand this correctly, this is what I'm asking, really. This is not another round of funding. This is funding we've already received and spent. And in it, so I guess my other question that would be for later is if we could get an overall accounting of the emergency rental assistance funds we've distributed and any that are in this year's recommended budget thus far.
We absolutely can, and if it's amenable to the board, we can bring it forward at one of our work sessions. You will. Okay, great.
Yes, thank you. And very timely, Commissioner Carter. Actually, at our DSS board meeting last week, we had a presentation from Aging Adult Services on two sides of the coin. One was on our low-income homeowner relief grant program and some recommended policy changes for that. And on the other hand was actually an overview of all of the rental assistance that we have had over the past 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic, city and county funding. And they would like to do a presentation. The county managers recommended that be at our joint city-county meeting on June 13th. So, because both of these programs have been joint. Too, but thank you for raising that. And we do have Maggie Svetichnian, our DSS director, is here, so she can keep me straight. But I believe we still have about $2 million worth of emergency rental assistance, and it's estimated that it's going to last about 5 or 6 months at this point, in terms of how we are trending. So at this point, so yeah, we do need to discuss what happens jointly, the city and the county, for planning for after that, for sure. Yeah. Are there any other questions about any of these items from board members? I just have one request related to the item 23-0343, the joint JCCPC report. If we could actually, at an upcoming work session, maybe after the summer, have them come share and talk about the data in that report, and maybe in conjunction with the gang reduction plan that we study that was just updated. But there was definitely a lot of concerning data in that report, and I really appreciate getting that. And anything else? I hate that the county transit plan is on our consent agenda.
That's weird. At least give
So, yeah, I feel like,
Knock yourself out.
yeah, I feel like we really need to, Ellen, can you just come up to the mic for a minute? Because we can't just like have it on consent and not
Right.
acknowledge all of your
Yeah, the whole
work.
public comment.
So, Ellen, any words that you would like to share on this very, very long, I would say, labor of love for you, I'm sure, but something that you have really guided us through, and this is a monumental result. So,
Thank you. No, it's very exciting. It's been in development for 3 years since the cancellation of the Durham Orange Light Rail. So very exciting to get to this point of adopting a new Durham County Transit Plan to set the long-term vision for transit investments in the county. It has been quite a long effort involving extensive coordination with the city and Go Triangle and the MPO to get to this point. Also, accompanied the transit governance study, which kind of sets a new framework for how the transit plan and the investments are managed. So it's a big step forward, a big change for the county. It started before I was a county employee, and I became the project manager over time. So just excited to have the support of the community and the 3 boards that are asked to approve the plan. You're the first board asked to approve the plan. It will go to the Go Triangle board on this Wednesday, and the MPO board on June 14th.
thank you. Any comments from commissioners related to this? Well, I will just say, for those who are with us tonight and listening tonight, who have not been focusing on this item, this is a plan for how we will spend over $1 billion in county transit revenues over the next 20 years. So it's really, really important. And this plan is the result of very, very deep community engagement. And we are now at the point where we're going to be spending 75% of the money on bus-related investments for our residents. Many different types of investments, bus stops, more frequent service, focusing in on Fayetteville Street, Holloway Street, the Village, our downtown bus station, a multimodal hub in the RTP, lots of really, really exciting things, and also fast regional transit and our first BRT efforts at BRT. There's a lot in here, and especially for the community accountability. We have a new interlocal agreement between all the partners, and there will be a data dashboard that will show people in the community how the money is being spent and what you're getting for your money. So those are just some of the highlights of this plan. And thank you, Ellen.
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge Aaron Kane. He's in the audience. He started as the manager for the study, so took over from him. He put a lot of work into it, too.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who has worked on this plan. Thank you so much. All right. So now Commissioner Lam, go ahead. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve our items 23-0000 through 23-0380 on our consent agenda.
Madam Vice Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Burns, seconded by Commissioner Lum. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the consent agenda is unanimously approved. Okay, so next we have a public hearing on the FY fiscal year 2023-24 County Manager's recommended budget. The board is requested to conduct a public hearing to receive citizen input on the County Manager's recommended budget for FY 23-24. To be able to hear from all interested citizens, the commissioners usually set a time limit for 3 minutes for each speaker, and that we will be able to do that tonight because we have about 20 people signed up to speak, and that will work out just perfectly with our 60-minute time period. Comments received by the county clerk will be shared during the meeting, added to the meeting minutes, shared with the commissioners, and placed on the county website, all for the public record. And also, citizens who wish to submit comments to the Board of County Commissioners can also use, there is a portal that is on the county website. And so is that portal up and running right now? I don't know if Keith Lane is here or somebody from, okay, David Ades from the budget staff. Maybe you could talk for a second about the way people in the future can submit comments as well.
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity, Vice Chair Jacobs. There's a citizen comment open on our budget department website. You go to www.dconc.gov. You can then look for the budget department website, and on the top of that page, there's an opportunity to provide citizen feedback, and it's a pretty open-ended, open-ended opportunity to provide feedback. We do ask you choose a topic, and then right next to that button, you'll be able to see those previously submitted comments, so you can look and see what other citizens have been recommending or providing feedback, and then we review those with the county commissioners during the budget work sessions, and we'll send some more detailed reports.
Thank you, David. And also to note that comments must be received. Okay, this must have been from our, what is the deadline for when we need to get the comments for
The portal will be open until you all approve the budget, which is currently slated for June 12th, I believe, is the first regular session. So June 12th we'll keep it open until then, and we'll provide you continuous feedback. The item you're probably talking about was probably for
tonight.
Clerk Wallace to be able to make sure she had enough time to process any comments.
Right, thank you. And also, comments can be sent to you as well, is that right? Budget comments sent to the clerk?
Yes, budget comments can still be emailed, and they can also be faxed. They can be mailed, and they'll be submitted into the portal.
Thank you. And they can be hand-delivered to our clerk, who is right down the hall here at 200 East Main Street, and also mailed to her at clerk@dconc.gov. So thank you. And Commissioner Lum, you had a comment.
Yeah, before we open the public hearing, I don't know if this was mentioned before. I just went in the back and saw the woman behind the curtain. I don't know if it was announced. We actually have translation at this meeting, and this is the first time we're having translation at our Board of County Commissioners meeting. So maybe if Monica or Manager Sewell step aside, if just give instructions for individuals who want to be able to utilize this service.
So we do have someone here that will be utilizing that service. Our public information team actually set all of that up. So if Ms. Deborah Craig Ray would like to say something briefly, she can. But we do have someone that is here tonight that will be utilizing the interpretation services.
I'm just very excited about this because it's the first time we've had it, and this is really great.
Good evening, Commissioners, Manager Sewell. Thank you, everyone. Yes, we received a request to provide translation services, and as part of our language equity program, we try to have funding available so that we can respond to that demand. Our ultimate goal, of course, would be to fund in a way that we would be able to provide it on a normal, regular basis. But tonight is by request, but certainly we're hoping to advance that going forward. But thank you for your support, and thank you for mentioning that. We're very pleased.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Lum, for making us all aware of that. And so for the future, so that we make sure people in the community know that please request this service if you need it, and we will be thrilled to provide it. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to begin our public hearing, and we have an in-person speaker who first is Cheryl Navalinsky. If you could please come up to this mic over here, and please, for all speakers, please state your name and address first.
Hi,
And you have 3 minutes.
my name is Cheryl Navalinsky. I live at 3 Elmridge Court in Durham, 27713. I'm both a DPS parent and an exceptional children instructional assistant at Durham School of the Arts. I'm here to speak from my own experience as to why classified staff need to be paid more. At DSA, I work with students with severe and profound autism. And please don't let the term exceptional children lead you to think that our students are all little kids. These students can stay in the program until they're 22 years old. They're all full-fledged, or they're not all, but a lot of them are full-fledged adults. Some of our students have the cognitive ability of a toddler, which can mean toddler-style tantrums from an adult-sized person. This can be dangerous to everyone involved. I've had black eyes, been bitten, scratched, slapped, and kicked. I've had my hair pulled out. I have scars. Some of our students also need toileting and feeding assistance. Some of our students are lower need but have problems regulating their emotions and can become violent. We are required to get special certifications for non-crisis intervention, which includes de-escalation practices as well as how to do holds to keep students from hurting themselves or other. We're trained in administering medications to students who need them. It's a very strenuous job, and I often leave feeling both physically and mentally drained. I'm fortunate that I am not the sole breadwinner in my family. I bring home about $1,500 a month spread out over 12 months. I've been doing this for 5 years. My insurance comes out of my paycheck, but not that of my 2 children. If I were a single parent trying to make ends meet, I'd never make it. Some of my coworkers have at least 1 extra job, if not 2, and I don't know how they do it. We sometimes leave work bruised and bloody, literally, to have to put on a smile and work retail or to go to a group home type setting to work leaves you with no reset time. It makes it hard to spend time with your loved ones. It's not good for a person's mental health. Due to our low pay, we have challenging time keeping good people. I love my job, but it's a hard job, and our pay does not reflect that. Classified staff keep our schools running. What would a special resources classroom look like if there were no IAs, or the cafeteria with no staff? Who would serve lunches? Who would keep our offices running and stop the phones from ringing off the hook? Who would keep our schools clean and even get our students to and from the schools? Classified staff do all of that. We've already lost enough good people to better paying jobs, and hopefully you'll work towards making our pay something we can survive on. We're important, we're essential, and our pay needs to start reflecting that, or there's not going to be anyone left. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And we have a few virtual speakers. First is DeWarren Langley.
Good evening, members of the Board of County Commissioners, particularly our Vice Chair, Chair Howerton, Vice Chair Jacobs, as well as County Manager Dr. Solwell. First, I would like to thank you Dr. Solwell, thank you for your recommended budget, which included over $100,000 for the Durham County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. I serve as chair, and the data that we've seen over the past few months indicate an increase in juvenile petitions around our young people, and these funds will help us invest in additional programs for our community in order to support our young people. Now I'm going to switch hats to my role as the volunteer executive director of the Charles Hamilton Houston Foundation. I appreciated all of the comments and that were stated as a result of the Day of Remembrance, and I'm here to ask for you all support in an investment in the programming of the Charles Hamilton Houston Foundation. We have a Young Men of Excellence program working with middle and high school boys of color, and a career pathway program working with young men 18 to 25. And this program has been transformational in that we've operated solely for the past 6 years with volunteers. However, in order to meet the demand that we're seeing with our programming, as well as the human capital investments we're going to need in order to continue our high quality programming and impactful outcomes, we're going to need your support. So I'll be reaching out to each one of you because as I've talked to staff about getting this investment from the county, it will require the Board of County Commissioners to make that decision. So I'll be reaching out to each one of you to share about our program and the impact that it's had for boys and young men of our community so that you all can make this investment. The data tells us what we already know, that boys of color need to be a budget and public policy priority. Thank you.
Thank you. And DeWarren, if you could just state your address for the record.
DeWarren Langley, 1030 Moreland Avenue, Durham, North Carolina, 27707.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have online Angie Keel.
Dear County Commissioners, my name is Angie and I'm a very well-educated second grader thanks to my teacher at Lions Farm Elementary. I am writing to you because I think you should give raises to DPS classified staff members. They deserve raises because they try to hold back yelling so they won't accidentally scare the children, which I think is super thoughtful. Also because they appreciate our work no matter if we're their favorite or not.
Email them.
One classified staff member who is really important to me is Miss Salazar, because she pulls groups for kids that need help learning, and she's also an assistant for Miss Willie's kindergarten class, and they can be a real handful. So please, give DPS workers raises. And once again, I'm Angie, and thank you for listening to my suggestions.
Thank you so much, Angie, for your comments. Thank you. Next, we have Claire Deschong.
My name is Claire and I am a second grader at Lions Farm Elementary in Durham. I am speaking to you because I think you should give raises to DPS classified staff members. They deserve raises because when teachers are out, they make sure students have teachers, they make sure kids get home safely, and they make sure they have good food to eat when we don't have any. But one classified staff member who is really important to me is Miss Justiniano. One reason is because she helps kids learn when teachers are out. Also, she makes sure the kids are happy, having a great learning experience, and she helps kids whenever they need it. She even pulls out certain kids and puts them in a group and helps them in whatever way they need it. So I think classified staff members should get a raise for everything they do for us. Thank you for listening.
And thank you, Claire, for being with us tonight. Wow. So next I'm going to read 3 names in a row and ask people to please come line up over here on the side. Larissa Seibel, Marie Hill Faison, and James Jim Savara. And we'll start with Larissa Seibel, please.
Hello, my name is Larissa Seibel. Do you mean my address?
Yes, thank you.
2410 RPAR Place in Durham, 27705. And I'm going to try a recording in Spanish.
Hi, my name is Yeli Vanessa Mejia, and I have 3 daughters, and I would like an apartment.
That was the oldest child, 10 years old. Let me try the other one, who I think is the mom.
Hi, my name is Yeli Vanessa Mejia, and I have 3 daughters, and I would like an apartment.
Okay, that was an experiment to, I was trying to get a family to come over with the kids to talk about the budget, because This family is actually living in one room with 2 bunk beds at the Durham Rescue Mission, and they've been homeless for a year since they got evicted a year ago in May as a result of COVID and loss of income. They were not able to pay their rent, and it was very traumatic for the family and the children especially. Fortunately, EK Post School helped them with renting a hotel room where another child was already homeless in the hotel, and the bus was already taking kids to school, so they got to finish out their school year. They're now at Eastway doing really well. Well, the youngest one will be coming along in pre-K. And they say it's a good place to be, but what they really want is a home, some kind of apartment that they can afford. But they don't have the income, any income right now, to afford that. So we hope that you will allocate some of your funds that you have allocated for rent assistance and for eviction diversion funds to help families, especially families with children, stay in their homes. And the other folks I hope you really look out for are seniors and disabled renters who are really struggling because their checks are not keeping up with these rents. And I've worked with a number of them. We go to the courthouse and help people who are in eviction. And I've seen people get sick from the stress and from the trauma of losing their homes and not knowing where they're going to live if they do get evicted. So we really do need to be doing more right now in Durham with this housing crisis, lack of affordable housing. I know you're working on that, but we also need that rent assistance. And I was really worried when you said that those funds may run out after 5 to 6 months. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Marie Hill-Faison.
Good evening, County Commissioners. My name is Marie Hill-Faison, and I reside at 202 West Enterprise Street, about 5 minutes away from here. And my community, Southside community, there's a lot of things going on there, changes, gentrification, homelessness. It's rampant. And if we can keep people in there where they live at, that would be great, because it affects the whole unit. It doesn't just affect one person. It affects the parent, and you got mental health issues, and the children. And I can speak from experience. I had the experience of being evicted, and it wasn't even monetary. So, but the fact that evictions happen to single parents is very traumatizing, and we need to do whatever we can to keep that from happening, because it's much harder to climb out of that hole than it is if we supplement for whatever needs that family might have, whether it be counseling or legal guidance or monetary subsidies. That's what we need to do. So I encourage that we continue to help people that are experiencing evictions, homelessness, that is running rapid in our communities. And I felt it was important for me to come tonight to express the need that I see within our community. I am a paratransit driver for Go Durham, and I've been doing that for 21 years. And I talk to the people on these vehicles, and this is the community that we need to help. You know, by whatever means necessary, we need to support people that are in crisis. And when you're evicted, you are in crisis. And I support whatever endeavors you have in store in the budget, and hope that you continue funding until, you know, we have a resolution or move to a resolution of this issue that we're having in Durham. So, like I said, my community, I see it firsthand. We're struggling. There are families struggling. There's some families not struggling, but we need to help the ones that are. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Angela, Angel, Vic Lewis, John Davis, and Michelle Burton to come forward as upcoming speakers. Angel, Vic Lewis, John Davis, and Michelle Burton, and go ahead, Savara.
Yes, my name is Jim Savara, 12 Susanna Drive, 27705. I want to state my support for the county's Guaranteed Income Pilot Program to assist low-income families with children under 18. The Coalition for Affordable Housing and Transit and People's Alliance have been advocating a rental assistance guaranteed income program to prevent evictions for 250 rental households. I have not had the opportunity since learning about the proposed pilot program last Tuesday to discuss details with coalition members. But given the conditions that led us to design our program as we did, I would argue that there are 4 features that should be included in the county pilot program. First, the income limit of households with children receiving monthly grants should be at or below 30% of the area median income, not 50 or 80%. Second, the monthly stipend should be $600. This would be a total payments of $7,200 for the year, not $500 or $1,000. Third, housing expenses exceeding 50% of income should be added to the qualifications for selection to receive a stipend or to be in the comparison group. Keep in mind that the Community Development Department has reported that there are over 8,000 rental households with income under 30% of the area median income in Durham that pay over half of their income for housing. That leaves very little left over for other living expenses. And then fourth, in view of that number, the county pilot should help more than 125 households. I'd recommend that you increase the stipend recipients to 200 a month with 100 in the comparison group. We would be happy to confer with the pilot program planners about the details of the program. I think one other housing matter that I want to support is supporting the acquisition and expansion of the Carver Creek Apartments that will provide supportive services to its residents. This is an episode that alerts us that affordable housing can run out, and acquiring this property will keep it affordable, and additional services will be added. I would also say about the support programs, it will be important in the future to provide support to elderly and handicapped households as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Angel Vic Lewis.
I was going to say good morning, good afternoon. I'm sorry. I just want to piggyback on the eviction court. I have experienced homelessness here since being in Durham. I've experienced living in a shelter, being in Durham. I've experienced most of all by giving back, coming through those accommodations that weren't so bright, but anyway. I get up Mondays through Fridays, not every day, not a paid job, but to go and help. And thank you for starting with this. And it's to help the residents that come in here for eviction court. So first of all, they get there and they're already in some, you get a note on your door, you got to get moving, and from there, you ignore the letter, you ignore the letter, you ignore the letter, until the letter comes to you and say, you better get here. So then by that time, you're there, and people don't know which direction really to go in. First, You got to know where you're going upstairs. Get into the courtroom on time before they call your name, or you're going to be held in contempt or your case dismissed. So I piggyback with Larissa to come up there on days that we can and assist the people as they come in. Ask them, like, what do you need? You know, like, people don't want you to know their business. Oh, do you need rent? Oh, no, but then they do, and they end. But then they see that you're just trying to help them and not be in their business. So that's number one. Pride gets in people's way. I understand they've been there, done that. So moving forward to, as they come in and they don't know which way to go, so they have legal aid in there, and please pour into that. They're there to assist with people who cannot assist themselves. So they go in there, they, you know, speak their case, and a lot of times, you know, it's not always the tenants, it's some of these shanky landlords that are in Durham, and they're living in deplorable homes, but it's nowhere else for them to live, so they stay there. And try not to have to pay the rent because it's not, it's may be affordable, but it's not livable, and still have to go to court to be eviction for living. Might as well live in the street. So I'm just asking to please consider any and everything you can for the eviction courts during the day, because the last thing you want to see is more people that are homeless. It's no room in the woods for homeless people. I've seen them getting evicted out of the woods, and where are they going? Nowhere. Nowhere. They say, well, they can't live here, it's private property, but who's gonna go all the way back in the woods to get somebody? Please help those who can't help themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. And do you mind just also stating your address? Thank you for the record.
I'm sorry?
We just ask everyone to state their name and address.
Oh.
If you just state your address. You didn't want
Angela Vic Lewis, 4215 Dalbert Avenue, apartment 4D, Durham, North Carolina, 27704. Might as well get it all out.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Okay. John Davis, thank you.
Hi, my name is John Davis, address 4449 Murphy School Road, Durham, North Carolina, 27705. I'm here to express my heartfelt appreciation to the county manager for including a suggested raise for the classified staff in the DPS budget. Today in science class, our final science unit of the year is on health, and I taught the word essential to my students, and we heard a lot about essential workers during the pandemic, but too often in our society, people who are called essential on the one hand seem to be invisible. And I believe that students I teach, they may not know if people are what people are paid in the building, but I think on some level they pick up on things about how people are treated. We know children learn from what we do and not from what we say. And I'm really looking forward to going back to my class when this budget passes and to be able to tell them that people like the instructional assistants, the cafeteria workers, the bus drivers that take care of them every day have been recognized for their hard work and given a increase in wage. This is my 8th year on the board of the Durham Association of Educators. Been the treasurer for 8 years, and it's been a long journey to work for classified wages. There's been times when I've enjoyed as treasurer bringing pizza to gatherings and paying for childcare, for organizing. So I just want to pay respect to people that have walked before us on this path, and I hope we keep working on this path in this time of inflation. And I think that the more that we can compensate and keep people, we have an integrated vision of a community that students pick up on rather than a fragmented one. 2 custodians from my building retired this year after decades of service, and I can tell you from the look that children had in their faces when they said goodbye to them that they are appreciated and they are seen. And I want to thank you so much for putting this in the budget right up front.
Thank you. And before Michelle Burton comes up, I just want to ask Juliet Gomes, Jenny Jones Cauldron, and Elizabeth Jones to please come forward. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, County Commissioners, County Manager Soul. My name is Michelle Burton. I live at 3009 Stone Fence Court, Durham, 27704. I also currently serve as the president of the Durham Association of Educators. And I just want to say I'm speaking in favor of the $10.8 million for Durham Public Schools in the budget, the county manager's budget proposal to increase the wages of our most valued classified staff members. One thing I do want to say is this, is that you may not see a lot of classified staff at these meetings, and the reason is because many of them, because they can't afford to live in Durham, they live outside of Durham County, and I've been hearing about the rents are so high here, and also many of our classified staff members work 2 and 3 jobs to make a living. So this raise, this money is going to help tremendously for them to, live and to, take care of their families and things like that. I just want to keep saying, and I know it was said by others, that Durham Public Schools would not be able to function without classified staff. There are our teacher assistants, our bus drivers, our child nutrition workers, the mechanics, the people who work in the front office. They are a valuable part of kids' education. We could not do it without them. DPS would not function at all. And we have to figure out, how do we pay these important employees a livable wage? And we have to continue to put pressure on the North Carolina General Assembly, because they're not doing their job to fund public education in our state. So I want to say thank you, Commissioners, County Manager Soil, for making this commitment. And we're just going to keep pushing to make sure everyone has what they need to live a promising, valuable life here in Durham County. Thank you.
Thank you. Juliette Gomes.
I live in Windcrest Road 515. Dear County Commissioners, my name is Juliet. I am a second grader at Lions Farm Elementary. I am here to ask you to give raises to the DPS classified staff members. They deserve raises because they work so hard. One classified staff member who is very important to me is Miss P, my bus driver. She has a hard job. It's hard because she brings a bunch of kids to school and home safely. It's hard because it's loud in the afternoon. She has to focus. Miss P is careful, safe, and kind. She gives us snacks when we are good. She gives kids small gifts on their birthday and sing a happy birthday to them. Please give raises to our wonderful classified staff members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Juliet.
Team Gryffindor. All right.
Jenny Jones Cauldron.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Jenny Jones Cauldron. I live at 2706 Duke Homestead Road. Every Wednesday, I walk into Holt Elementary to pick up my child early to take him to his occupational therapy, and I'm greeted by Miss Purvis, the school secretary, who is almost always giving supplies to one student to take back to their classroom and putting a Band-Aid on another student with a scrape from the playground, and often taking the temperature of another child and calling their parents to let them know that they are not feeling well. And Ms. Purvis can't be here because she doesn't live in Durham, and it's quite a trek for her because she can't afford to live in Durham. And each morning, my child gets picked up by bus, taken to a school, and each day, my children are served lunch and breakfast by our incredible nutrition staff. And when my daughter, who's a little bit clumsy, inevitably spills, the janitorial staff cleans it up. And they do it with a smile that, if I'm being completely honest, I often struggle to put on when it happens at home at dinner. And as the parent of children with widely varying needs, it can be really scary to leave my children in the care of literal strangers. But one thing I've learned as a public school parent is this: they aren't strangers for long. As a parent of 3 DPS students, I appreciate your efforts in funding DPS over the years, but I also recognize how important it is to pay every single DPS staff member a living wage. And I urge you to fully fund the DPS budget, especially including the classified salary study. And I did want to also mention, Commissioner Alam, you made a point of saying that this is the first meeting with interpretive services. And while I agree that's really, really exciting, I also want to note that the interpreters in DPS who do such incredible work day in and day out, they're part of this. And they can't afford to live here without multiple jobs. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm going to also ask if Kimberly McCrae, Vanessa Arnett, Lauro, and Abigail Mulligan would also come forward. And thank you, Elizabeth Jones.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Jones, 1609 Maryland Avenue, Durham, North Carolina. That's 27705. And I'm here also asking you to fully fund the Durham Public Schools budget request. Since our state refuses to fully fund our schools, DPS needs your support to meet the needs of students and staff. This budget includes very necessary salary increases for our classified staff. These staff members do some of the most important work in our schools and have stepped up to do even more this year in the midst of shortages. Yet they are not yet paid a living wage, which is unacceptable in a county that calls itself progressive. Please fully fund the budget and raise salaries for our classified staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly McCrae.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly McCrae, and I live at 112 Hidden Oaks Drive in Cary, North Carolina. I came tonight because my family goes generations deep in Durham. My great-grandmother raised my father and his 2 cousins, and they were one of the first families to live in McDougal Terrace when it opened up. So I have a great commitment to making sure that Durham is the place that those of us who call ourselves Durhamites love and cherish and want to see flourish. I do work with Grown in Durham, which is focused on the Durham Early Childhood Action Plan. And Grown in Durham has been a great experience for me. I raised 4 children in Durham, and I have found that some of the same issues that I had, my children are now ranging from ages 22 to 31. And I find that some of the same issues I had in obtaining early childhood education for my children are still existent for parents here in Durham, which is hugely problematic. So I found that in working with Grown in Durham, it is a coalition of community-based organizations, community members, some of the childhood providers in Durham. It's a very generic group of people that have come together to make sure that Durham is providing in all of the ways that children need, not just in education, but that all of the places in Durham have access and have the resources that children in the early childhood area need. So I just came to advocate that money be intentionally appropriated towards early childhood. In the Every Child NC Coalition, one of the colleagues there said at one of the meetings, early childhood happens to be the only educational endeavor that always has to prove that it's worthy of being on the budget. So early childhood deserves, if we're looking at having this future that Durham is building towards, all of these wonderful resources that are now available and the beautiful things that we see happening around Durham, why not sow into the children who will be utilizing those resources and continuing those resources and sitting on the county commission one day and being the mayor and being presidents of organizations and doing the work that we're doing now? Why not sow into those children at a point in time where it's their formative years so that they can then have the tools that they need to be able to make sure they continue the work and that they improve the work as they get older. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Vanessa?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Vanessa Barnett Loro, 4100 Thetford Road, Durham, 27707. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Ignite Online Academy in Durham Public Schools. I'm a former DPS student, did grow up here, a future DPS parent. My kiddo's 18 months old today, so not yet, but soon. I'm here tonight to urge you to vote to fully fund the DPS budget. I'm here specifically to speak in favor of the proposed salary increases for classified staff. Because while I do teach fourth grade last year I taught kindergarten and then first grade, and our IA Miss Sarah was indispensable instructionally, logistically, relationally. She helped with everything: literacy, small group instruction, proctoring assessments, chaperoning field trips, subbing short-term. She subbed long-term and short-term. She subbed the entire year when we needed her. She wore so many different hats. Miss Sarah is a rock star. She's a professional. She's not paid like one, but she is one. And like so many other classified staff in DPS, she's a hardworking mom who's trying to raise her kids in an increasingly expensive Durham. I also have to shout out our amazing data manager, Dottie, and our incredible treasurer, Kim. And I personally rely on their technical and business expertise probably daily. And in a broader sense, their institutional knowledge is just foundational and makes it possible for our school to function. All three of these women are essential. They are beloved. They deserve more than what the district is giving them right now. So I'm asking you to take care of our people. I'm asking you to vote to fully fund the DPS budget and to pay Miss Sarah and Dottie and Kim and all of the other incredible classified staff something a little bit closer to a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you. And Abigail, would you like to come up here?
Hello, County Commissioner. My name is Abby, and I'm a second grader at Lions Farm Elementary. I'm here today because I think you should give pay raises to the DPS classified staff members. They deserve raises because they work hard to make sure students have a safe and clean place to learn. One staff member who is really important to me is my bus driver. One reason is because he helps many students get to school and puts up with the noise. Also, he makes sure everyone's sitting down and not switching seats. Please give raises to our amazing classified workers.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Okay, and last we have Yesenia Carlone, and I know we're going to have our translation services come out as well for Yesenia.
While we wait for Yesenia, can I just say that I think I see the future Board of County Commissioners?
Yes.
You're speaking tonight?
Absolutely. We could just go sit down. They can just come up here.
Estimados comisionados, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Yesenia Carlón. Les doy las gracias y la oportunidad de tener intérprete el día de hoy. Les agradezco por tener este detalle con mi comunidad, que somos todos. Yo soy parte de Criado en Durham.
Commissioners, good evening. My name is Yesenia Carlón. I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I thank you for having an interpreter, for giving me the opportunity, and for giving me this chance to speak for my community.
En esta ocasión yo vengo para proveer información sobre mis hijos. Tengo 3 maravillosos hijos, 18, 14 y 7 años. Les pido un apoyo para el presupuesto para el grupo de Criado en Durham.
In this case, I am coming and giving you information. First, I would talk about my kids. I have 3 kids, 18, 14, and 7, and I would like to ask your support for our program Growth in Durham. Grown in Durham.
Yo soy parte de este equipo. Pienso que es importante para incluir a todos y cada uno de nuestros hijos en esta oportunidad tan grandiosa de una crianza y una educación de 0 a 8 años de edad. Eso es importante para la niñez y nuestro futuro.
I am part of this team, and I think it's important to include our children, specifically from the age 0 to 8. It gives them some an opportunity to get them involved in early education.
En esta ocasión tengo una niña que se ha criado por Book Baby, se ha graduado, es una excelente niña y quiero que todos los niños en Durham, sin importar de dónde venimos, de dónde somos una comunidad aquí en Durham. Así es que merecemos la oportunidad de que nuestros infantes tengan una buena educación desde el 0 edad hasta 8 años.
I have a girl that has been graduated from Book Babies, and I would like for other kids to have this opportunity, an inclusive environment for all children, no matter where they are, where they come from, how they look. They deserve a good educational opportunity.
Criado en Durham es un programa que estamos implementando, porque soy parte de ello, para que los niños tengan una buena educación. ¿Por qué? Porque son el futuro de nuestra comunidad. Si hay violencia, si hay que los padres están en la cárcel, queremos nosotros proveer esa ayuda para esos infantes, para que puedan salir adelante por nuestra comunidad, por nuestros padres, por todos nosotros, y que sean nuestros hijos que en algún momento sean parte de esta gran personal que está aquí.
We want our kids to have a good education, to have a future. If they are in situations of violence or their parents are in situations of imprisonment, they need our community support. Children need to be supported, and one day they can be sitting where you, the commissioners, are.
Por eso creo importante que ustedes tomen en consideración poder aportar para nuestro equipo, para poder continuar con nuestra labor y yo poder seguir ser parte de ustedes y agradecida por escucharme en esta noche. Gracias.
So that's why I ask for your support, so we can have a continuing support in the community for the children. I thank you for your time and for listening to me tonight. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Yesenia. So that completes our comments tonight for the public hearing. I really want to thank everyone who's come tonight to make comments, also to be here in support. And we encourage everyone to continue, those who are listening and are not here, cannot be here in person, to keep sharing your feedback with us as we will adopt the final budget on June 12th. Will be the meeting that we adopt the budget. So there's still plenty of time to provide your feedback. And again, thank you so much to everyone for being here tonight. Commissioner Burns?
Yeah, this is really quick, Madam Vice Chair. I'm gonna pick on somebody in the audience. Hey, Sonny, how you doing? So a lot of people don't know Sonny, but Sonny has been an honest and selfless advocate for our EC staff and IA staff. I want to say that again, honest and selfless. And the reason why I'm highlighting her, everybody can't always come out, but she's had an opportunity to come out, I think sometime this year and last year, but she is an example and a walking manifestation of why it's important to invest in these teachers. So I'm gonna shout you out, girl, because right now she's an assistant, but she is doing, I'm gonna mess it up, the TA to BA program at NCCU. So you are working right now because you love the kids so much. You've been in the classroom so much. You are now working on your bachelor's to become a teacher in Durham Public School. So I just want to say, shout out to you and to everybody in the community who kind of sort of has this false narrative that this board doesn't support teachers. When you have, she's just a perfect example of what an investment looks like. And if we do invest and make these additional raises, that we can have a steady pipeline of teachers who know these students, love these students, and care about these students. Her husband nodding her head, she's not moving. Y'all, that's her right there in the back, in the corner. Shit, this is her. So thank you so much for your selfless advocacy for the teachers' assistants, for the EC staff and the IA staff. And thank you for seeing the worth in our students. And I cannot wait to see you as an alum, as an Eagle. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 23-0321, update on proposed trap, neuter, vaccinate release program, otherwise known as TVNR. Just, oh, sorry, I got it wrong. TNVR. But this is also something else that a lot of people have been working very hard on for a very long time. And on September 9th, 2021, just to give some history, a proposal was made to amend the county ordinances to remove barriers to a community cat management program. This resulted in a proposed amendment being presented to the board at our May 23rd, 22 meeting, and along with it, an alternative was presented at the July 11th, 2022 meeting. And so this has been a long process, and we are now hearing back what the results of a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And thank you to Curtis Massey with the County Attorney's Office, our Senior Assistant County Attorney, for your efforts, and we look forward to this update for our board.
Good evening. And you want to talk about misnomers? The name TNVR omits spaying. So you can extend that thing on out if needed. As you mentioned, there were presentations in May and July of last year. And I am here tonight to get some direction because I'm sorry to say we don't have a final answer yet. And I need to know what my client thinks because I've not been able to achieve harmony amongst all the stakeholders. As you may recall, when you heard this matter back in July, there was a proposal made from May about TNVR. And y'all endorsed it in principle, but you had two questions. You wanted to know how that program was going to be funded and how it was going to be administered. Because what you kept hearing is, going back to September 2021, remove the barriers in the ordinance so that a community solution could be provided to a community problem. That there were groups out there ready to make TNVR happen. And there was some concern. In fact, I think the quote was, you wanted to make sure you did not impose an unfunded liability on the county by just adopting the proposal from May of last year. And I'm sorry to say those questions remain largely unanswered. I've had a lot of trouble getting engagement on those topics. And in fact, it got to a point in December where I really started to doubt there was good answers to be had. And I was also concerned because the more I had looked at that May proposal, while y'all had talked a lot about you were adopting an ordinance or looking to adopt an ordinance that would allow TNVR by removing barriers, the details of that May proposal would mandate TNVR as the only option. That you would take these free-roaming cats, they could not be strays, abandoned at large. They were excluded from ever being a nuisance. They could only be trapped as part of a TNVR program, and that was explicit, especially as to the sheriff. So if somebody had a complaint and called for service, the only thing they would be told is, we'll come get them fixed, and bring them right back to you. And as I looked at that, I said, this really brings home the need for answers to the questions that were asked by the board. How is it funded? How is it administered? And the answers I got were basically what y'all were told back in July of last year, that groups were ready to step up but were unwilling to commit as long as it was not explicitly legal in Durham. And I kept pushing and I said, you know, we can't go back to them with those same answers. That's why they deferred action. As I began to doubt I was going to get those answers, and recognizing, and look, y'all know I wasn't involved with any of this until October. So I've had to go back and basically learn the history. And I did that by looking at the meetings from September forward, by reviewing the minutes from AWAC from January of 2020 forward. And I looked at the issues they said mattered, and that's where I came back to. They were looking to remove barriers. And I reached out to some folk. AWAC has a community CAT committee run by Jan Paul. I happen to know Ms. Paul, who's also an attorney. I've dealt with her occasionally over the years. And so I reached out to her and talked to her about some of the concerns I had and the desire to find a way forward. I'm sorry, before I called her, I had done some looking, and I found that Wake County had a program which seemed to mirror what was being proposed in that it was largely run by nonprofits. In fact, exclusively. It was adopted in 2011. I talked to their animal control director and got very good feedback that it's been successful for them. And they adopted that even before a plan was in place, because I know y'all were looking at a plan, and I said, well, if the concerns are funding and administration, and I can't get answers to that, but we've got a clear path that talks about how it can be done by the community groups that we kept hearing about, I said, perhaps that will overcome. And I get away from the mandate of TNVR that's going to force things that have to happen. And I talked with her. I met with the director of the animal shelter, Shafonda Allen Davis. I talked with the sheriff's counsel, Ms. Lovelace. And I said, I'd like, can we come together at the local level and see what we can do? And Jan said she'd be glad to participate, but I really needed to get somebody involved who understands TNVR and the animal advocacy in Durham. And she recommended a lady named Sarah Reichman. And so I kind of met with the four of them and talked about what I saw and what I thought was workable, and wrote up an ordinance modeled on what they had in Wake County. I won't say it's exact, but modeled on it largely. And we had a lot of back and forth and give and take, and I think it's fair to say that, well, I didn't care what it said. I was trying to make y'all happy. But of those who were representing clients, everybody gave up some, everybody got some, and we came up with a compromise that would allow TNVR and that addressed the initial concerns, removing the barriers. And the barriers that were there were this. Let me just take a look at my note. One is getting rid of rabies tags for cats. And the reason for that is under the rabies statute, and I said statute, not ordinance, if an animal's supposed to have a rabies tag on and they're not, they're supposed to be picked up, taken to the shelter. So if you remove that rabies tag obligation, you don't have an automatic trip to the shelter. They were worried about ownership so that people who participate in TNVR do not get tagged as the owner. Some of that has to do with liability. Some of it has to do with being criminally liable for abandonment of the animal. Now, some of that's state level, But at the local level, we said for our purposes, you're not the owner. They also wanted to get rid of the trapping permit. Now, that's not a state requirement. That's something in Durham that to trap domestic animals, and this comes from before the sheriff's office had animal control, you were required to get a permit to trap domestic animals. And they wanted to exempt community cats, TNVR, from that because there is concern about the government having knowledge of where these animals are, where these colonies are. They want to operate without a lot of government involvement and knowledge. And they also wanted to do away with the requirement that animals that were trapped or impounded would have to go to the shelter. In fact, what they said is just have a reporting only requirement in the September 2021 presentation. And we did that. And we also put in there that free roaming cats, which are ear tipped, and that's how you can tell they've been part of TNVR, will not be trapped or impounded unless they've been the subject of a complaint, such as causing a nuisance. And following Wake County set it up that if we have a nonprofit that will serve as a referral, because if they don't want the government to know about these cat colonies, but somebody calls to complain, well, the first thing is, can you engage whoever is supporting these cats? Kind of bring in the neighbors, can we deconflict this? And for that reason, looking at a nonprofit as opposed to the sheriff's office, because if the sheriff's office has to go out there, then yes, they're going to try to figure out where the cats are coming from, what the issues are, and that seems to take away some of the anonymity that community wants to maintain. We set in some guidance and standards for caregivers, things to try to hopefully deconflict with neighbors. And this is separate from TNVR, but this is something that goes back to September 21. APS had asked that we reduce the shelter hold time from 5 days to 72 hours. Now, 72 hours is the state minimum. It's what I understand every other shelter has. For whatever reason, Durham set a 5-day hold. Now, I know from talking with, and is it properly Miss Allen or Miss Davis? Davis Allen. That's fine. No, we'll go for it. Now, talking with Davis Allen, I will tell you she does everything she can to run a no-kill shelter. So it's not that getting this down to 72 hours means that they're going to be putting animals down. At the same time, once those 72 hours elapse, then ownership of the animal vests with the county, and that makes it easier for them to deal with elective medical procedures or put the animal up for adoption. Now, it's separate from TNVR, but that was certainly a long-standing request. Now, as I said, the local group, which was, and there's Jan, sitting next to Miss, now I already forgot, is it Allen Davis or Davis Allen? Just Miss Allen. She's still going to slash my tires when we're done. And is that Miss Reichman next to Jan? Hi, we've talked on the phone a lot. You too, ma'am. We came up with a compromise ordinance. I did reach out again to the national groups because I really, and the other stakeholders, because I really wanted to try to make sure what we could do or have in place for what are the elements of TNVR. Not getting a lot of substantive feedback. But the feedback I did get is from 3 groups, best friends, who'd been very much involved in the May ordinance of last year. Humane Society and Alley Cat Allies, they really wanted to stick with the May proposal, the mandating of TNVR. And I understand that. It's much more aggressive. And they felt that because y'all had endorsed it in principle, that that's where you are. And it may be. At the same time, what I kept running into is that If you mandate TNVR, which is what that proposal is, then it goes right back to the questions you asked that we can't get answers to. Now, I do want to correct one thing, because I don't see the Dows here. I'm sorry? Dows are not here. I met with the Dows, Mary and Alan Dow, who are with Independent Animal Rescue, and I met them in early March. Very helpful, very transparent. And they said, look, our current capacity, and they've got contracts with several surrounding counties for TNVR services, with Orange, Person, and Warren. And they said, right now we can do about 25 a month in Durham. If TNVR were legalized, they've got access to some grant funding. They can kick it up to 50 a month, which is 600 a year. And they said that we've got 100 traps we can loan. So I do have that information. And Ms. Reichman, God bless her, sent me a list of other entities that may, and I don't know their capacity or how much they do gratis and how much they want to get paid for, to offer TNVR. But again, that goes back to the question. And of course, as you know from some of the prior presentations, I've seen estimates of anywhere from there being 30 to 60,000 community cats currently in Durham. And the last one of those was from July of last year, so who knows where it is now. That's a lot of animals. I get the desire. I don't think anybody wants to put down a healthy animal. At the same time, I'm confronted with not having answers to the questions you asked about, okay, what is it going to take to do this, and what is it going to cost? Where's all this coming from? So it's a question of where y'all want to go at this point. And I'm not recommending anything, but because like I said, I'm your lawyer. I'm here to find out what you want to do, and I wish I didn't have to do it in open session. But that's the problem with elected bodies. First off is, do y'all want, and I'm not trying to get everybody to do a poll just at this instant, but I just want to make sure you know what my questions are. Do you want to go forward at all if you don't have answers to those two questions? Or does that end the inquiry for you? 2, assuming you want to go forward, do you want to go with the, well, and just to keep them separate, because when I talk about a May and a March proposal, I know that starts to get confusing. Do you want to go with a mandatory TNVR, or do you want to go with a proposal, the one we worked out locally, to allow TNVR? And then, do you just want me to keep talking with the national groups to see if we can find some more common ground? And I don't know if that's possible, but if they at least know that you're not dead locked in on that mandatory program, maybe they'll soften up. But to be honest, that's going to just mean more time too. And the thing I've been hearing, particularly from my local working group, is we need to get it adopted. We're already behind the power curve on the breeding cycle, which is no longer an annual cycle, but seems to be continuous. I'm good with any of it, and I appreciate y'all may have questions on the specifics, and I'll do my best to answer any of them. I just want to know where y'all want to go.
Well, thank you, Curtis, because it is quite evident how hard you have worked on this and how earnestly you have really approached this and reaching out to people, talking to people, doing your research, and we really, really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I know I'm gonna open it up for questions also from board members, and then we also have 2 people signed up to speak on this item. So first I'm going to start with any just questions. before we have any discussion? Just questions for Curtis. Any clarifying questions from anyone? Okay, so I'm going to pivot to our two speakers. First is Sarah Reichman, and then Janice Paul. So if you would come up here, and you each have 3 minutes to speak.
Madam
Please.
Vice Chair, are you opening a public hearing?
No, they are just signed up to speak on the agenda.
Okay, thanks.
And you each have 3 minutes. Thank you. And just state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Reichman, and my address is 406 West Markham, 27701. First, I want to say thank you, Curtis. I do have a face. But you put a tremendous amount of time and heart and energy into this. So I want you to know that. Obviously, I'm currently working with the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, TNVR Subcommittee, to make recommendations to the board how to address the overpopulation of cats here in Durham. I urge the board to vote tonight to accept and adopt the compromise ordinance amendments so we can move forward in Durham, addressing community cat overpopulation and reducing the hold time of animals in the shelter. TNVR should be legal, and Durham residents should be able to help reduce the population and control diseases by legally participating in TNVR without bringing animals to the shelter. Changing our ordinance to make TNVR lawful is an important and necessary step to make it possible for nonprofits to apply for funding, grants, and to recruit volunteers for TNVR programs. So it's kind of the chicken or the egg. We kind of need to make it lawful for us to develop programs. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Janice Paul?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name's Jan Paul. I've been a Durham resident since 1977, was on Animal Welfare Advisory Committee as the District Attorney's Office representative for 6 years in the mid-'80s when we were dealing with anti-tethering. So it was dogs in the '80s, and now that I was a sheriff's appointee 6 years ago to Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, it has been cats. But one of the things that Sarah mentioned specifically was the chicken or egg or the cart or horse. Community resources are not going to raise their hands and come forward until and unless TNVR is no longer unlawful, or at least not lawful in Durham County. And I know Curtis and I have had discussions about, well, actually, is it unlawful or is it not unlawful? And attorney to attorney, we've had some interesting technical and legal conversations about that. But the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee's mission, and I was chair of the subcommittee and somehow ended up being de facto chair of the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee for almost 4 years, the past 4 years. This is the mission of AWAC is to provide recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners regarding animal welfare in Durham County, and to make there's a mission statement to make any recommendations regarding animal welfare. And this has been a priority on our agenda and in our meetings for the last 4 years, and actually has been a very controversial and a very sometimes contentious and emotional issue in Durham since committees and subcommittees were formed on this issue back in 2010. So it has been going on for 13 years in Durham County, and Durham County is the largest county in the state of North Carolina not to have a TNR or TNVR program, and is in the minority of counties in the state that don't permit it. It's not permitted. So AWAC's recommendation was remove the barriers, remove the legal impediments, remove the obstacles that currently deter individuals from openly engaging in TNVR, allowing a chance for it to happen, taking some of the burden off of the sheriff's department or the sheriff's office, which currently is charged with the burden of taking care of feral or community cats, and making this a community project, not to develop a fully operational program at its inception. So we, as AWAC, and I think as I can't speak for APS, but I speak for a number of community organizations which would ask you please to vote for this. You voted to support the AWAC version back in July with some modifications. Curtis Massey has worked, I'm sure, frustratingly, tirelessly, and heroically to arrange compromise at the direction of the county manager between all of the community stakeholders, not the national stakeholders. This is a Durham community issue. It's a Durham community request, and we would ask that the wishes of the Durham community as represented in the modified ordinance be accepted and that you vote tonight.
Thank you. And Jan, could you just state your address for the record, please?
9509 South Lowell Road, Bahama 27503.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. So I'll bring this back to the board for discussion. Commissioner Burns.
I'm sorry, y'all. It's late. You know, long nights to talk about cats. I remember when we brought this forward last year, and, you know, Curtis was looking at me when he said 30 to 60,000 cats, because y'all remember last year, I was like, where are they at? And then I left this meeting, and there was a stray cat on my street. And he went into the sewer like he was chasing the clown Pennywise on it. And I know y'all planted that cat at my house. And I've been waiting to tell y'all, I ain't afraid of cats, man. So I do just want to throw out, you know, I know this has been brought forth. I actually am pulling my hair because I thought there would be a resolution, but I get it. It's a touchy issue. There are a lot of nuances. So not so much a question, because in my heart, I support moving forward, because I remember one time last year, somebody came forth and said they were euthanizing, 88 cats 1 week. I don't think nobody want to go to work and kill 88 cats, right? My brother worked in an animal shelter, and my brother's not a quitter. The only job he ever quit was in the animal shelter because he could not deal with euthanizing dogs. He just could not deal with it, For me, and I just want to throw this out here, the 72 hours down to 5 setting the 5 days down to 72 hours. I did some research, y'all. I guess my only concern, the shelter's open 37 and a half hours a week, right? So if it's a weekend, I think the reason why the 5 days was there to give folks a reasonable opportunity to come and retrieve their cat. So I know one of the recommendations is to take it from 5 down to 72. Is that correct?
It is, ma'am, but if I remember correctly, because this did come up.
Curtis, take your mic with
Please
you so
take
we
the
can.
mic.
Thank you.
We're going to the audience.
I don't even want my question answered no more.
Believe me, I get that, the concern for euthanasia and animals not being able to be redeemed.
Right.
We did do, I'm Shafanda, the APS Executive Director. We did do a study of other shelters and open hours, and we are we're sort of on track. We don't count days when we're not open to the public in those hours. Like right now, it's 72 hours for feral cats.
Right.
If people can't see them, we don't count those hours.
Okay. That
Yeah,
works.
so it's 72 hours in which they have the ability to see the animal or reclaim the animal. And starting July 1st, depending on what happens tonight, we're probably going to shift our hours to being open later in the evenings and longer on Saturday.
Okay, that's that one. The other thing, you gave a recommendation about 25.50 a month. That's 600. Y'all, and then you said quite eloquently, that we're not in the mating season because cats have a continuous breeding cycle. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, are we ever gonna catch up? Like, I'm just being honest. I'm not saying no. If we can only do 500 of these a year, and these things are, for lack of a better phrase, reproducing like rabbits, I don't know if we're gonna ever catch it. That's not me saying no. That's not for comment. This Commissioner Burns commenting. And then, I guess my last thing is, um, I get, I want to move forward, but I know that there's only a couple of folks who do this. So like IAR does TNVR, right? Like there's some groups who do it.
Yes, ma'am.
My only struggle would be, since there's so few people who do it, we don't have a sound recommendation. I feel like, and I could be wrong in my research, somebody clarified, the same individuals have had this contract for 10, 20, 30 years, if I'm not to work in this space. And I'm curious, do we do a RFP because this is so nuanced? So that's my only question.
Let me clarify something because I may have misled you with the way I put it.
Mhm.
IAR does not have a contract with the county.
Right, no, I get that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I know that they do.
What they are doing,
has
they have
APS
contracts with other counties. What we were discussing is what they were capable of doing. If I had community cats in my back area and I captured them, they would ask me for a donation of, I think it's $40 a cat. And if I said I ain't got it, they still gonna fix them for free because they work off the donations they have. But yes, they hope people would be willing to help. I did point out some of the volume, just so you understand. It goes back to concern over the concerns that were expressed by the board about mandating TNVR. Because if you sit there and say, if the sheriff goes out and picks them up and brings them to the shelter en masse, what's going to be their capacity
Right.
to process those animals? And I appreciate what you're saying. If you take that there are 30,000 cats and you only have one organization doing 600 a year, that's 50 years, assuming no growth. At the same time, if you allow TNVR, then you have the ability to try to control the size of individual colony.
Right.
And if the nonprofits are doing it and managing it, hopefully successfully, one is that's no net harm. The other thing is, if you can get the community, the cat caretakers to engage and hopefully minimize impacts on their neighbors, it can be a very positive thing. And I hope that Ms. Paul is correct, that once the restriction is lifted, groups will stand up and be more willing to engage. And hopefully a program will develop such as they have in Wake County, where they have, I understand 5 or 6 have come together coordinating services. I don't know if that's realistic, but it's certainly proven in an adjacent jurisdiction.
Thank you. Commissioner Carter?
Yes. Thanks to Curtis. And Curtis, I think you have all the same amount of hair that you did the last time I saw you, despite the fact that this has been a hair-pulling endeavor. Really also want to thank our community from the very beginning. Over a decade now has been working on this. I guess I started serving on AWAC in 2016, my first year as a county commissioner, and this came up then as something, again, it came up again as new business, or I think it was probably still old business. So this has been going on for a while. Curtis did a great job of describing the circumlocution of it all. I don't know what to call it, but it is a little complex. We did approve the TNVR, the idea of having a TNVR program. We never adopted the ordinance for the reasons Curtis stated. And I would like to move tonight, and eventually I'll get there, but I would like to move tonight that we do adopt the most recent version that Curtis described, not because it's perfect, but because it helps us make forward movement. It helps advance our position on this, helps us get started. It also removes the legal liability concerns that you raised that I think are very valid, Curtis, around nuisance cats and anything else. It does the things that AWAC really wanted, which was reducing the holding period to 72 hours and removing the requirement for a trapping permit. So, there's a lot about this that is very positive. It's the result of negotiation of our stakeholders at the local level. So we have, those who are very passionate about TNVR and moving it forward. We had some others that had some concerns. We had the Sheriff's Department working with you as well, Keisha Lovelace, and so she was part of this negotiated draft. So, I think it's miraculous that you've all been able to come together and agree on an amendment. And that's another reason why I want to support this one. I think that's a benefit, that it was negotiated by local stakeholders. And I think it will be great for the community who would like to participate in the control of unowned outdoor cats to be able to feel like they can begin doing that. And to hopefully do something other than what we're doing now, which we know is not effective at controlling the cat population. And over time, hopefully this will be effective at reducing the at-large cat population. So, while it is not perfect, I do think we should go ahead and adopt this most recent draft, the March 2023 draft, 2023. And we may determine with implementation that we want to tweak some language or change some of the parameters around the procedures. We don't know yet, but let's get going with it. And that I think that this will be really good work, and we will continue to value the advice from the national partners, Best Friends, and others. They raise some really valid concerns as well, I think. And at some point we might be at a place where we can have a model best practices policy according to everyone. But right now we've got a policy. We've got an amendment that we've got a draft ordinance that we can work with, and I think we should move forward with that. So my motion is that we approve, if it's okay to move forward with approval. I'd like to.
I think I was looking for my adult supervision. And the reason I wanted to defer to the county attorney is because if I understand what you were just saying, Commissioner Carter, is you want to move basically to adopt the red line version as actually amending the ordinance tonight. Now, whether that's permissible or not, I'm going to defer to the county attorney, but I want to note something for you. Typically, when an ordinance is amended, a resolution comes forward. And in the county ordinances in 1-11, they specifically talk about the form you're supposed to use to amend the ordinances. Now, how binding that is right off the top, I'm not going to offer an opinion.
Okay, so we wanted to bring this forward because we were asked to. It's morphed into a work session, which can happen. Ideally, if we're going to adopt for passage an ordinance, we would love to be able to do it in just a tiny bit more clear and formal fashion with some call it red line, is publishing quality format with underlines and strike throughs and clarity. Because we have two on the agenda, we'd have to be very, very clear about which version. While I love the spirit, and apparently I was conferring because this is, I've got a couple stops under my belt and I've got a bunch of rules in my head. You have a lot of latitude here in Durham County to do things kind of on the spot like this. But I think ideally we prepare it for you. We create it in the format where it is clear. We publish that in the way we do things, and then you vote on it with the clear sort of version. So there's no question. That's also good because we have not tackled the budget piece, which was one of the core questions that was here tonight. We had 2 core questions restated as 3, but we had some core ones.
Oh, yeah, that was another benefit of this amended draft, was that it worked around the need to have a budget because it's not really requiring any, action by the county that we have to fund.
Okay. So, you certainly, I'm not a voting member. You certainly are free to do whatever. I'm absolutely glad to support. My offering was merely for purposes of clarity and just to be sure. So I'm open to support whatever you all choose, but we are capable of producing a clear, single, unitary document, should it be your will.
So I'd be fine with that. I'm looking at my colleagues and
We can still give direction to staff or
Right.
take a vote on that action that
Yeah.
we're
Well, that is what I think we
directing the
should do.
staff to do such and.
Yeah.
Here, I got you a draft. Hang on.
Okay. Great.
Well, not of the final thing. I mean, I've got that up too on my computer. But
Well, we would like to direct staff to bring back at the next meeting, yeah,
A
the
streamlined-
redlined, very clear version of the March 2023 amendment that we want to approve. Okay. And here it's going to really sound nice and legal.
see what we're doing as well.
So I move that the board direct the county attorney to prepare a resolution to amend Chapter 4 of the Durham County ordinances to allow a trap, neuter, vaccinate, release program as detailed in the proposal created by the local working group dated March 21st, 2023. Curtis, is that clear enough? I mean, okay, if you say. In other words,
Tell me that's the direction.
in other words,
I know what you want done. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
all right, that's what I want done.
Pinky swear.
I want it to be that draft that we read, all that. That's the draft that came out. Okay.
Second.
Right.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Carter, second by Commissioner Alam. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion has passed unanimously. Yay!
Save the kitty. Save the kitty.
And I just wanted to make a few final comments, and I know Commissioner Alam hasn't had a chance to speak, but I want to echo everything that Commissioner Carter just said, and also to thank everyone in the community for participating, the stakeholder group. I just think this is a wonderful model of what you have done, Curtis, is coming up with a compromise that really just helps our community move forward. So thank you. And Commissioner Alam, I don't know if you had any comments.
For me, the reason, I'm supportive of this is because I really rely on the subject matter experts, and I really appreciate Curtis for working so diligently to bring that subject matter experts to the table. And I feel like making it an easier vote for us because there was so much work laid out that you laid out today also that brought us to the point of being able to vote for it. And thank you to AWAC and all of the partners who are stepping up to do this work and to hopefully, not have to make a budget line item on the county. So we always appreciate volunteer service and support.
Thank you. And just for clarification, will this come back at our work session? And will we vote on it, suspend the rules and vote then? What would be the timeline?
So if you're going to do a final vote, we'll bring it back. I mean, you have the option here. You can suspend the rules at a work session, or we can bring it back at a regular session. It'd be typical of an ordinance amendment. We just need to get some sense. There's another kind of big thing that's going on right around now, budget. So I'd love to work with the county manager to find out when's the best to weave this in, because that was a 10-minute presentation we just did.
Right. And this could be on our consent. Can it be on consent? Can it be on our consent agenda
Yeah,
for the
yes,
June
ma'am.
12th meeting? Is that possible?
We would.
It could. I just wouldn't recommend it.
Okay, so we could vote on it
We can vote,
separately.
right. I would
Okay.
vote.
I would like to request, though, that it be on the June 12th meeting and not any later than that.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
okay, so it'll come back at the June 12th meeting for. No, I don't think we need to. No, I think we've talked about it enough.
You know.
After, this is a 2-year history that I read off in the beginning. Almost 2 years to the day, May 23rd, 2021. So let's get it on our June 12th agenda for.
And just for clarity, since there are no budgetary impacts, I will make it have an effective date upon adoption. Just make sure nobody's going to blanch at that. I don't want to surprise nobody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All of y'all and everyone there.
Thank you. All right. So next we have board and commission appointments. And Mr. Attorney, are you ready with those?
Yes, ma'am. We're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you.
So this is our regular time to talk about voted upon additions to the boards and commissions. So I will read the results of the balloting for the one sec. Folks, if y'all could clear the room, if you don't mind. Okay. So the Durham Convention Center Authority, there's a vacant at-large position. The vote was for Susan Amy. For Farmland Protection Advisory Board, had a 2-person vote, and the vote was for Nancy Herndon of Cape Fear VAD and William Young under the business representative category. For the Memorial Stadium Authority, it's a vacant position. The vote was for Tia Rawlings. That concludes the balloting.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Attorney, and congratulations to everyone who has stepped up to serve. We do not have any pulled consent agenda items, and now the board is requested to adjourn into closed session to establish or to instruct the public body's staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other materials, terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease, or the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A5.
I move that we move into closed session for the reasons stated.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Lon, seconded by Commissioner Burns. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And we are unanimously adjourned into closed session.
All right. You got the language, right? Oh.
Okay, we have adjourned from closed session, and Mr. Attorney, I will defer to you at this moment.
Since we've agreed to come back into open session, we had a closed session discussion regarding some real estate acquisitions for project. And from what happened, I believe at this time, Madam Acting Chair, that you are seeking from the board a motion granting authority for up to, I believe, an additional $285,000 to be used as an increase in the authorized expenditure from the Snow Hill Road Pump Station and Force Main Replacement Project budget. And as a part of that grant, you are also directing staff to take direction giving and to exercise all power, including the use of condemnation for some of the parcels involved, but you are authorizing a total additional expenditure of no more than $285,000.
Thank you, and I'd entertain a motion from the board to approve the stated language from the county attorney.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Burns, seconded by Commissioner Lom. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the action has been unanimously approved. And we are now adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
We have to adjourn.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So boo. We don't have.
Moved by Commissioner Burns, seconded by Commissioner Carter. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.